again. This is like 3 in a row, Pete?
2.
2 in a row. The Brazil Expat Journal. We're on a roll. We took a little bit of a break, and now we're getting it all out. Getting it all out for you guys. Thank you for the new likes and the subscribes and everybody that's listening. We're getting a few new subscribers every week, which is really cool. And I want to say, Pete, this weather's getting a little better down here in São Paulo, yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty typical. Usually, my birthday is in the second week of June, so I remember it, and it's always like really cold, and then it picks up, and then usually it's not too bad till about mid-August. In mid-August, you get that one last vicious slap in the face, just like, oh my God, you're thinking, yeah, winter is Sao Paulo, it's not really so bad. And then, you get usually like one extra week of fuck you weather in August. So we're coasting now.
And people got to know that who are coming down, especially if you're coming down to Sao Paulo, folks think it's tropical everywhere in Brazil. That is not true.
We're elevated.
Yes. But anyway, so we're back from a long weekend here of fun and festivities. The gay parade happened in Sao Paulo. I did not go. Way too many people for me. I got sick, actually. I ate too much popcorn.
Got sick from eating popcorn, man. But you know why that happens? Because now Cinemark is offering, like, with their packages, you buy like one thing of popcorn and you get a free refill, man. And I swear, just like one of those things, like I'm not eating dinner that day if I go to a matinee.
That's what happened. By the way, Pete, get close to that mic because I can barely hear you. But all right. Yes, I got popcorn sickness, guys. But I will say this. For those of you that are coming to Brazil and Sao Paulo, and this sounds so cheesy to say, but the movie theaters here are fucking amazing. I mean, I grew up in New Jersey, and we had the worst movie theaters. And it seems like the weirdest thing to say, like, come to Brazil to go to a movie. But yes, and we'll be talking about movies today with our guest, by the way. Which I might as well introduce him. I segued myself right into it. Guys, tonight we're going to be talking to Dorval Arantes, okay, about the Black experience in Brazil, okay? He's an author. He's authored 2 books on the subject. They're both available on Amazon. We'll talk about that. But he also began this group called Intelectualidadeafrobr, which translates into Afro-Brazilian intellectualism, okay? It's on Facebook and Instagram. And his thing, Mr. Arantes, is to build connections and networks with Afro descendants from both Brazil and abroad. So it's going to be an interesting topic because Brazil, in case those of you that don't know, is a country that has over 100 million people that identify as either Black or brown in a country of 200 million. So that's over half of the population. So Black and brown makes a big part of the culture. And this man over here is doing everything possible to get that out into the mainstream. So let's welcome him. Where is Mr. Durval? Let's put him up here on screen. There he is. How are you, sir?
Right. Hey, how are you doing, Philly? Peter, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys. I'm honored, and I hope I can live up to the expectations. And I hope you guys can see me well. I don't know exactly how well framed I am, but here I am.
Look fine.
Let's rock and roll.
I'm gonna put you like this. There you go. Then you can see it better.
That looks better. Okay.
That looks better. So Durval, you are a Brazilian native, right? You were born here?
Yes, I am. I was born in a small town called Volta Redonda in Rio de Janeiro back in 1962. I am the 4th child of 7 siblings. I am the middle brother. And, I'm married. I have 3 kids, and that's who I am. I have been living in Sao Paulo since 1984. And that's what it is.
What made you move to Sao Paulo? What made you move to Sao Paulo?
Well, in fact, my life story is a little weird because I was born in Volta Redonda, but I opened my eyes, so to speak, in Sao Paulo. And I lived in Sao Paulo from since I was born until I was 14. When I was 14, my family moved back to Volta Redonda, and I stayed there from 1976 until 1984. 1983, my parents passed away, and I decided to return to São Paulo. and I have been living here ever since. And what really made me move back to Sao Paulo was that my parents passed away, and I got this invitation from my older sister. She said, "Okay, there's nothing you can do up there. Just pack up and let's live together." So, and then that's why I decided to move, and I have been living here ever since. Uh, I, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
Phil,
I was typing.
Okay,
yeah,
I was
okay.
Phil's a
typing in a
little muted
message.
there.
I know. Sorry, because I was typing a
Okay.
message here, and I see we got 3 people already on the call or on the live cast. So, welcome, folks. If you have any questions, please drop them. I always mute because my keyboard sounds like those old school typewriters, and you can hear.
I
So
I
usually I
heard
mute
you.
myself when I'm typing away over here. So we get to Sao Paulo in the 80s, and now you're
Yes.
very much involved with Black movements and stuff. But take us back in time, Brazil in the
All right.
80s. This is when I left Brazil, by the way, because I was telling
Okay.
Durval. My story is, I was born here, but my parents immigrated to the U.S. in about 86, 87. So I missed this whole period of Brazil in the 80s and 90s. So what started to pique your interest in Black thought, Black movement here in Brazil in the 80s, 90s? When did that start getting into your mind?
As a matter of fact, Phil, what happened was this. In the late 70s,
Yes.
when I was still living in Volta Redonda, I met this dude named Zacarias, and he was one of the muggles of the Black movement in the city. So to let you know, Volta Redonda is a very small city in the state of Rio,
Yeah, I'm
and
putting it up
it
on the
was
screen.
exactly. And thank you. And it was pretty much founded by farmers, and it was an area with lots of farms and plantation and everything. And the need for slave labor was very huge. So if you go to Volta Redonda one day, you see that there's a very significant and prominent Black population. And I had this dude called Zacarias. One day he was visiting one of my uncles. And for my surprise, you have to keep in mind that I didn't speak English back then. And he had this essay of Ebony magazine under his armpit. And then he started to talk about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and this kind of thing, Rosa Parks. I said, what is this guy talking about? And then he started to lecture me on the Black movement in the United States. I said, whoa, have I been missing this? I was what, maybe 17 or 18 years old. And that sparked the flame, say, oh, wait a minute. That's me right there. Then he
Mm.
gave me the magazine, say, look, you can keep this one. Then I couldn't read, but I could see the pictures. And so, man, what is he talking about? That was one of the reasons why that motivated me to get some knowledge on the English language.
Mhm.
And I would say that was the beginning of the whole thing, when the Zacarias gave me the magazine. And if I remember very well, the essay had Richard Pryor on the cover and
Yes.
some things about his addiction to cocaine or something like this. But anyway, but inside it, all the other articles talking about, Rosa Parks and the kind of things and the working class in the Black working class in the United States and everything, that created some kind of revolution in my mind.
Yeah,
That
so
was it.
that kind of brings me to a question I've always had about the Brazilian Black movement, because I
Hmm.
watched the documentary what Amarelo, it was last year by MC,
Hmm. All right.
which I appreciated it because he did give some insight on Black movements in Brazil, because we get this sense that Brazilians have sort of followed the U.S. a lot on a lot of things, not just Black movements, even women's movements, gay rights movements, just social movements in general. It seems like Brazil just kind of, even the McDonald's movement, Brazil was always following the U.S. So, was there anything in Brazil that connected you to the Black movements that far back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s?
I would say that I think that the first insights on Black culture and African diaspora and this kind of thing came from my parents. You have to keep in mind that my parents, came from a struggling families from Minas Gerais, and but my mother especially, she had this African influence in the way she talked, the way she behaved, the songs that she used to sing, some words that she used to use, and that. But it was kind of natural growing up close to her, listening to this African influence on her general behavior was the little beginning. But for me, it was like, okay, it's a family something, it's a family thing, so I don't have to worry too much about it. Little did I know that later on in my life, I would perceive the importance of that first influence in my growing up. That was it. And then of course living in society, then I facing racism and growing up in a pretty much white society, and trying to get a job and some education when you are the minority, then you start to notice and perceive certain things. Then that kind of forged my interest in black movement and this kind of thing, I would say.
I see. And the did you feel it was easier to get into that here in Sao Paulo than in Rio? Because I always say people most of the stuff that's happening is starting here in Sao Paulo, and then it spreads out to the rest of the country.
I would say that I consider myself fortunate to have had the experience to live in inside of the Carioca culture and the Paulistano culture.
Mm-hmm.
In São Paulo, the thing is way worse than in Rio as far as segregation, discrimination, racism, and everything. You know, it's unbelievable, the struggle, the fight you have to face up every day when it comes to you know uh, going up on the social ladder, the social mobility, being black and living in Sao Paulo, because it's just like that. It's sometimes it's a pure and plain racism right in your face.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I have had even when I was a child, I had a traumatic experience involving racism. And yes, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in Rio, but I don't know, because of the demographic of the city and the geography of the city or the
I think
setup of
that
the city.
yeah.
It's a different. It's racism at the end of the day. But what I'm saying is the approach is different. You
Yeah,
know,
well, geographically, I think that makes such a big difference in Rio because
it does.
everybody's
It
just
does.
thrown in there. Rich, poor,
Exactly.
black, white,
You
they're
got it.
thrown in there. And in
You
Sao
got it.
Paulo, it's so much easier to segregate because of the size of the city.
Yes.
And in fact, shout out to a few people. One of them, give me a second, because I
Hmm.
definitely told this brother I would shout him out tonight, which is Mr. Webster. Thank you for listening. He gave me a shout out today. Says he really loves the show. Thank you, sir. And a shout
Hmm.
out to my friend Rod. A couple of his friends were here in Sao Paulo, and they were looking for, where are the black people at? And they were in Paulista, and I told them, man, you're in the wrong spot if you're looking for the black folks. And I told them, Sao Paulo is a very black city, but it's black in the suburbs, like kind of where you live, Campo
You got it.
Limpo,
Yes.
Butantã, which is why I live here and I don't live in Moema anymore, and I don't live, in some of the central regions because I like my mix. I like my white, my black, my rich, my poor. I like a good mix of people. So Sao Paulo is so much easier to segregate,
Yep.
and it seems like black folks here know their place. They know that's where you hang out. That's where you go to the mall. That's where you go to the movies, and this is where we go to the mall and we go to the movies.
And I would go further, Phil. I would say that the richer the area, the deeper the segregation.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
well, it's economic
Yeah,
segregation, really,
exactly,
is what it
exactly.
is.
Yeah, yeah. But
Mm.
you bet your last dollar that even being rich, if you go to a rich area, being black, you will be discriminated against.
Oh, for sure.
It's just like that. It's just
For
like that.
sure. Good friend of mine, Sean, lived in Moema for a while, and I mean, it was tough for him to get up into his own apartment building many times, or
Mhm.
when he would have to go to a meeting. He was like us. was a works with banking, investment banker. And even just showing up to meetings, he'd always have to have his white counterpart with him. It's insane how they will still get you. They'll still get you.
Right.
Jay-Z's got that great song, "Still a Nigga." In the end of the day, you can do this, you can do that, you can have
There
millions
you
in the
go.
bank,
There
but in the
you go.
end, still a nigga.
There you go. There you go.
So that gets me into, okay, so you said you started learning English because this the stuff with Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, and all piqued your interest. But then not only did you start learning English, you began teaching English,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But then you begin your literary career. What's up with this? What prompted you to write your first book, O Último Negro?
I got to the point where, after putting together all my professional experience, my life experience, my emotional experience, the whole package, okay, I need to go back a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Since early school, I always had the comments from my teachers that I had a keen to writing well. I had this talent, if I may say, to compose and write and impress people with my writing skills. But I always neglected that. I always say, okay, that's just for me. I don't want to. But then back in 2004, I got to the point where I say, wait a minute, there's something inside of me telling me that I should sit down and start writing. Then I said, well, where can I start from? Where can how can I give my first kickoff? And I sat down, I had this idea, and then I put together my experience of working with the African Americans, because I'm a former Foreign Service national of the American Consulate. And then and I used to work with African Americans 24/7. So on the top of my experience in Volta Redonda, in my life, etc., I had these extra, this is spillover effect of working with the African Americans. So then I say, okay, I think I can come up with something. Then I start to write down and put my skills to work. And then the first book was released in 2010. Yeah. And then was became like a blockbuster. People would say, hey, what, we got something different here. And because I put Afro-Brazilians, African Americans, and Africans in the same storyline, in the same plot, and people embraced the idea that, say, oh, well, this is really something. And then after that, I said, okay, my editing company said, okay, you better start working your second, because your first was a big success. Then I started writing the second one, and things start to happen.
Okay, Durval, can I just clarify something? So this was a novel? This was a novel?
Yeah, it's a novel. The first one was a novel. It's kind of a mix with romance and adventure and action and thriller and suspense and everything. So I put together all these elements in the first creation. It was really good. The acceptance was wonderful. I cannot complain.
Now this one is only in Portuguese, right? The second book.
Yeah, but I'm working on the English version. It's weird, but my second book was released in English first, and now my first book is going to be released in English second. It's a consequence, of the launching in English of my second book. So the guy said, okay, you better. The guy, meaning my editor, said, okay, you better work on the English version for the first one, because it's good. Oh, that's the English version. This came up on request because I have some African Americans who can speak in Portuguese, and said, well, wait a minute, why you haven't launched for the African American and African audience in English? So yeah, it's just a matter of time. Give me some space to breathe. And then about 4 months ago, I started working on it, and there it is.
I like it. The Ashanti Enigma is the second book, Ancestry, Heritage, and Legacy, the English edition. So if you guys want to practice your Portuguese, you can get the first book in Portuguese. I would suggest it for some of our expats that are down here. You want to show that on the screen? You can. Wait up. Let me take this off so you're nice and big. There he is.
So
Oh, I like me.
we have some very black trendsetters writing the preface and the initial texting and everything, and it's a pretty good work. And now it's available for the African American in the United States as well because it's in English. This is the Portuguese version, but as you can see in the Amazon, they were
Hmm.
very pleased and kind to accept this production in their
Now,
platform.
getting into the literary world here in Brazil, what were some of the people that influenced you? Some writers, some Brazilian writers, maybe some that you
Like
can even recommend to people in the
Os,
audience.
Oswaldo de Camargo, all the big guys that came before me, also from the female universe, like Conceição Evaristo. We had Esmeralda Ribeiro. We had many other books like Carlos Machado, Professor Carlos Machado, which is a contemporary, is very intelligent and brilliant man. The list is long, and I would be unfair to skip some names. So, but certainly the big ones, the from the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, the big writers from the Black movement in Brazil. I was fortunate to read most of their pieces, and we have a group called Cadernos Negros that put together it's like a collection of poets and writers and authors. They launched this temporary and frequent editions of books regarding the Black experience in Brazil. Have many, Yeah,
Let me share that here. Cadernos Negros. I've never heard of that.
yes, it's
Let's
some of
see
them.
if this
Yeah.
right here. Cadernos Negros.
Hmm.
Oh, my internet's
Yeah, it's
acting up, but it'll show up at some
they
point.
have
There we
yeah, exactly. So that's the 40th volume, but they have been working on this since the early 70s,
go. Yeah, I
and they
see
put
this.
together. Yeah, it's wonderful. Each of their releases are spectacular. You know, yeah. Oh, that the guy in the middle in the black and white pictures, the Oswaldo de Camargo.
I see
Oswaldo de
that.
Camargo was the first guy who saw my first work, and he was the first critic of my first book. And he said, Durval, go right ahead because you are in the right track. It was a big motivator for my, literary career. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, cool. I'd never heard of this. And
Yeah.
that's when I tell you, like, for me, so much of this is interesting because it's not really talked about. I mean, it nowadays, and I'm going to ask you a little bit about that
Go ahead.
in a minute about what you feel has changed
Uh
in the
huh.
Black movement. But for me, I mean, when I first got to Brazil, what 2009, 2010, it's like okay, I read before I got here Africans in Brazil by Nascimento, which I thought was a really interesting book. Gave me a different perspective on Africans in Brazil, the fact that Brazil is a very black country, because we're not
Yes.
sold that. At least I was never sold that in America.
Mm-hmm.
When we watch movies, we see Rio de Janeiro. We see some people have, darker skin, but they're like tan, they
Mm-hmm.
don't go all out black.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I get here and I'm like, oh, wait, this is different, right? This is not exactly what I was expecting. There's a lot of darker skinned people here.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I not told about this? Where is in America, from the time we're young, we got the Black History Month. We all know who Rosa Parks is.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Luther King Day,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
Juneteenth, is happening right now. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. Day
Mm-hmm.
late, but, not a
Mm.
dollar short.
Never too
Um,
late.
yes. So what goes on in Brazil that it's such an integral part of of Brazilian culture is the Afro culture, that it's not told, it's not taught in the way that I think it should
Well,
be.
I can explain to you right now. It's because the mainstream of our country, of Brazil, is suffers from what we call the white privilege and the white uh, control of media and the national propaganda and the mainstream in Brazil is pretty much white. You know, they control the media, they control control the government, they control the military, they control pretty much everything, the industry, the economy, the finance. So they give you this euro oriented view of Brazil, where if you back in the mid 70s and 80s, you turn on the television, you would see a blonde girl represent Brazil as the the country of happiness and everything. So that's a matter of power control, because the this mainstream, this white oriented mainstream, determines what kind of language, what kind of propaganda for the country, what kind of image to go abroad, what kind of essence, and what kind of okay. But when you talk about Brazil as happy and democratic, then they include a little black girl here, a little black man over there, just to show okay, yeah,
You got to show
we
somebody
have this.
somebody. Got to show somebody doing
Exactly,
something.
exactly. But never like a black man in power or a black woman in control or as a federal representative. And it's a permanent struggle. We have to. I understand that we have as a people we have to 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 crack this bubble, to with education, with the qualification, with determination, all kind of actions that you can put in mind. And I'm sorry if I'm quoting Malcolm X, but he's my guy. And that's what we have to do. It's a reality that we have to change, and it has to be bottom up, not top down. It has to be bottom up.
Hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? So that's what it is. That's what I think. It's a long way to go, but we're getting there. Little by little, step by step. Thanks to our ancestors, and the people that came before me, and the contemporary generation, and the young people to come. It's a permanent struggle.
Yes, and I remember, you got somebody like Machado de Assis. I remember
Mm-hmm.
when they did the commercial for, was it
Oh,
Caixa Econômica?
Caixa Econômica, yeah.
Yeah, and they got a white guy to play him. Like it was
That's
just
what I'm
normal.
talking
Like
about.
nobody would say anything. Maybe 10 years prior to that,
Yeah, yeah,
nobody would have said that. And
yeah.
it's funny though, is like for somebody that didn't know, like myself. I mean, I didn't grow
Mm-hmm.
up here, so who's Machado
Mm-hmm.
de Assis? I watched the
Mm-hmm.
commercial. I was like, okay, like, okay,
No,
whatever.
yeah.
It's just an
You
old
would
white guy.
assume that he was a white guy, but
Yes, and
that's
then
crap
it's like you
because
find out, no, this was a black dude, and
exactly,
he's not just
exactly.
one of the greatest Brazilian writers,
Mm-hmm.
probably the greatest Brazilian writer. He's like the Mark Twain of Brazil.
You got that right. You got that
And
right.
there you go. You got so it's incredible what you say.
I don't know
And
if you know, but we had a president. His name was Nilo Peçanha. That's way back in time, in the beginning of the republic, in the
hmm
early 1900s. The guy
yes.
was black, but he was always portrayed on the books as a white guy. And his mother was a maid, a housemaid, and his father was white or
Yeah.
something like that. To that matter, his name is Nilo Peçanha. If you see, he was now after the review of history, we consider
Oh, I
him as the
got it.
first. Yeah, exactly. So he was a black guy, just like Machado de Assis, but he was always portrayed as a white dude. You know what I'm saying? So we have many
Yeah,
cases. We have many
I'm
cases
on
like
this
that.
site here. 5 Brazilians that have always been portrayed as white. We got
Exactly.
Maria
Yeah.
Firmina
For
do
me.
Reis,
Yeah. She's an author. Yeah.
writer. There's a
Hmm.
guy you're talking about, Nilo
Oh, that's
Peçanha.
the dude. Yes. Uh huh.
Yes, he's the
Okay.
first president of Brazil,
Yes.
Padre José
J-
Maurício.
Yep. Another dude.
We got Lima
Oh,
Barreto,
Lima Barreto, my guy. So he's an author, very respected.
and then
That's
Machado de
Machado just.
Assis there. Yes. So yeah, it's like you said, it's the there's not a lot of pushback to it. So that let's move forward then, because now we're getting
Okay.
into Black thought here. What prompted you to start the Afro-Brazilian intellectualism group? You said you started that in what, 2012, was it? On
2012.
Facebook?
We are
And
celebrating yesterday. No, on Sunday. Take that back. On Sunday, we celebrated. 10th anniversary of the group.
Founded
What
it with
really
your wife,
motivated?
yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, when I first started the group, I was all by myself. She came a few years later. What happened is with the coming of social medias, I noticed, not only me but a lot of people, I noticed that I could reach more people by using the digital platforms. It would be easier and more practical um, to spread the words using the internet. So I opened this group, and I had a very serious preoccupation feel in regards to the respective kind of language and the subjects and the kind of conversations and debates that would offer. So I framed the group in a very specific rules of using the space, prohibiting bad words and um, unuseful discussions. Only something that would make us move forward, even if it's just discussion or talk or chats is okay, but something propositive, something positive to our people. So because of that, the group started to get some recognition, some highlights in the media, and people start talking, and then came 2016 or something. Me and my wife, after she became one of the administrators of this space, we decided to say, "Good, look, I think it's time for us to start to do something in the concrete world, not only the digital but virtual, but only in the real world." So we start to plan and organize and promote presential gatherings where we could put our folks together, put brothers and sisters to talk, discuss, and also to see each other, to not depend on social media too much on virtual information. So we're black people, we like talking and listening and dancing and singing and etc. So we started organizing these meetings with specific subjects, and then in 2018 we are
What type of subjects? Like, give us an example of like what a
black
typical topic.
culture, black traditions, African diaspora, African American history, black movement, only things concerning to black people, pretty much.
Right,
And
right. But like to be like really specific, like an example of
like
one meeting.
well, okay, one like this one, for instance, Pensando Fora da Caixinha. My wife organized this one, and we discussed and proposed solutions for our struggle, like education, entrepreneurship, employment, and um, all kinds of subjects of interest of black people in Brazil in that moment. It was great. We put a lot of people together. We could discuss, and then we start. Okay, we can continue. We can keep doing this kind of things from time to time, and then we started to get some recognition inside our community in town. So in 2018, with the release of a Black Panther, again, my wife, she's brilliant. She's always coming up with great ideas. Okay, why don't we organize a Black movie session just to celebrate the coming of a Black Panther movie to Brazil? So yeah, well, we can do it. So we rented a place in El Dorado
You
Mall
lost
in
me
São
there. I
Paulo.
thought you were talking about the release of a Black Panther from prison. You're talking
No,
about the
no, no,
Marvel
no, no.
movie.
From
Okay,
no, no.
that
Yeah,
sounds
no, no,
awesome.
no. And we put nearly 300 people in this gathering, and was a huge success. Even outside Brazil, we had some.
You're muted, Phil.
You're muted, Phil.
Was this at El Dorado shopping mall?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I mean, I was there because I went to the premiere, and then I saw all these folks. I was like, "What's going on
Yeah,
here?"
but that we organized that one on a Saturday night. Maybe the premiere was on Wednesday,
Well,
I think.
whenever it was, all I know is that
Yeah.
I went to El Dorado shopping mall and I saw people that I
Oh,
don't see at El Dorado shopping mall in that
that's
link.
yeah, exactly,
And I said,
exactly.
"What's
So
going on here?" And it was wonderful to see, because it was like, I'm used to, I went to the Star Wars when it came out, like the first day. So I like seeing stuff like that. Everybody dressed in Star Wars gear. I have my little Star Trek uniform that I wear sometimes. So I like when I see movements of people going to see stuff. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I did not expect this for Black Panther. And I found out later from my friend Jordan that it was you.
Oh, exactly. Jordan, my man.
Yes. And Jordan, actually, he likes to go to this one here, which unfortunately I'm single at the moment, so I couldn't participate. But the dinner, what is that one right there? What? Not that one.
Oh yeah, that.
Where's the dinner one?
Oh, the dinner. Yes.
Oh, I think I lost track here of the page. Where is it? It's one of these.
Yeah. There's a specific button just for the dinner somewhere.
Yeah, I can't find it now.
And I have.
There it is.
There it is. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That was awesome. That was, the cream of the crop in terms of gathering. You see Black people, African people, African Americans and Afro-Brazilians having a good time and eating and drinking and talking and networking, and it was awesome. And I have to credit my wife, Ana Paula, because she's the one who idealized this event. She said in the beginning, it was a kind of, you think, we can do it. All the time she invested, she believed, we can do it, it's okay. So when I last saw it, I was all involved in the organization, but the credit needs to be given to her because she's the one that really idealized this gathering.
Well, it's that we got that saying in the U.S., behind every great man is an even greater woman.
Exactly.
So there you go.
I can better say that. I have no complaints about that. Ana Paula is wonderful. She's dedicated. She's focused. She's organized. She's determined. It's incredible. It's incredible. Her energy is something I have never seen in my life.
Yes.
And I would say it would be fair. It would be fair to say that most of the things that happen is because of her. It's because of Ana Paula, certainly.
No, for sure. So, and you just recently had another cinema thing, right? For Lázaro Ramos.
Medida Provisória, yes. Okay,
yes.
That was awesome too. Another one, and it was so good that we had to do it 2 or 3 times because people say, no, let's do it again. Because even people who saw it the first time, they never minded seeing it again, and it was okay. And again, it was Ana Paula's idea. She came up with, okay, we can organize these and that. So I say, honey, no, we can do it. It's okay, let's do it. So, it was really interesting, Yes.
Now, I want you to speak now too, okay? Because, all these things are really nice gatherings and everything. I think it's really cool. But, going back to what I said at the beginning, the country is majority Black. São Paulo City has the most Blacks in a city in Brazil by crude numbers. Obviously, per capita, you're thinking Salvador maybe, and maybe even Rio has more per capita. But in all, São Paulo is the blackest city in Brazil. So in a country where the majority of the people are Black, tell me why you still need these events. Okay, why are these events needed? Why is this visibility needed?
Oh, I would reply asking another question. Why wouldn't they? Because, we represent over 50% of the population. We contribute to the history of the country. We suffer from racism, segregation, and race, prejudice all over the place. So the best way for us to reinforce our image and our power, our representation is by being together, is by uniting together, is by doing things together as a community, as a people. Otherwise you're going to disappear inside the country. So the more united, the more
visible
aligned we are, the more visible we are, the better. And things are changing, Phil. Don't take me wrong, things are changing.
Oh, I
I
agree.
see, because you see the young generation of black people, they talk more, they don't take shit no more, they talk back, they they do things that back in the days I wouldn't do, as far as positioning, standing
Hmm.
up, you know. So it's a long way, of course, a long way to go, but things are changing, and I think we in the mid 40s and 50s and 60s, we are role models. They are looking
Yeah.
at us, so it's time for us to stand up and show strength, show attitude, because they are looking at us. I have 3 kids, and they are looking at me. What are you doing with our history, our traditions, our ancestry? And it's we have to be careful with what we do, what we say,
Yes.
because it's we are role models, like it or not, we are role models, so
Yes, and
Mhm.
the visibility is so important. I have a kind of like an adopted child in my life, a little black boy, and when we go to the dentist, it's a black dentist. When we see a psychologist, it's a black psychologist. When it's a doctor, it's a black doctor. When it's a lawyer, it's a black lawyer. Like I make it a point to always show him this because sometimes that's not available to him given
Right.
where he was raised. So for me, that visibility is super important, and having
Oh
the
yeah.
ability to hold your head
Oh
up
yeah.
high. And I'll
Oh yeah.
tell you, Durval, coming
Hmm.
here in Brazil, that was the thing that would frustrate me the most with the black Brazilians that I would meet, is how they would walk with their head low. They wouldn't look
Ha.
white people in the eye. They would, uh, I,
I have
I
I
go
have a
ahead,
story to tell you about
go
this.
ahead.
Okay, when I was still with the consulate, I had this dude. He was a Marine, and we kind of got acquainted to each other. Like black guys and now kind of thing. And then one day we were riding the car, and he said exactly what you said. He told me, Duval. I say, what, man? Look, it's amazing. I say, well, what is it? You know, when I pass by a black dude in Brazil or in Sao Paulo here, sometimes I look at him, but when he looks back at me, he's like, facing down, or I have the impression he wants to bow his head, or it's like some kind of pressure, or it's lack of pride. I said, well, let me tell you something. I used to be one of those, and only after I knew more about my history, my knowledge, my ancestry, then I started to rise my head. But the system is like that. The system wants that. He, the system wants you to behave like that
Yes.
until you get some knowledge, until you get some clarity about the self. Then you start to say, wait a minute, I am a human being. You know, I deserve respect. And 2 or 3 years after that, I used to have this one supervisor. His name was Hollis Williams. We worked together. He was my supervisor. We used to travel all over Brazil together, doing diplomatic stuff. And then one day he came to me, and that was my certification of a self-esteem. Phil, he came to me and said, "Hey, Durval, I was talking to my wife about you the other day." So, oh, really? Yeah. What was that? Oh no, because I told her I like the way you carry yourself. I said, "Wow, okay." That was quite an accomplishment to my self-esteem, because I came from this countryside little black boy with a low self-esteem, and then due to a lot of the transformations in my life. Then listen, you have to bear in mind that this is something that he said. I never asked him to say that. He told
Hmm.
his wife, "Oh, I like the way Duval carries himself." And then 3 or 4 years before, the other black guy said, "Duval, sometimes I walk by the street and I see these black dudes. They're all bowing their heads all the time." Exactly what you said. It's a process,
Yeah,
buddy.
and global
And
go-getters said the same things, and I felt the same
mm,
way when I first went to
mm,
Brazil as an African American. I was like, "Lift your head up, brother." It's frustrating, man. It's so frustrating.
mhm.
I yelled at my bass player. You've met Naldo, Peter, super
Yeah,
sweet
yeah,
Yeah.
of
guy,
course. Yeah.
super
Hmm.
sweet guy, amazing bass player. But I live in the back of there's a hairdresser up front. It's, a bunch of white folks, whatever. But he goes to park his car on the street, which is totally free. And they gave him this look like, oh, but our client may have to park there. You better be quick. And I got pissed, man, that they said that to him. But he only told me after. And then I was like, if they ever say that to you again, call me. Just call me. Right? And then, but then he came here again, and then he parked his car, like they say here in Brazil, in Puta que pariu, like super far from my house.
Right.
And I only found out after. I was like, why did you park there, man? Like you can't bow your head down to these people. Like, that's what they want. And especially when it's older white folk in Brazil, they still think they're in the 1950s and 60s where black people knew their place. And you walk with your head down, and if they just look at you and say, don't park here, you don't park. And I'm like, man, I am, in a way, I'm kind of glad he didn't tell me, because that would have been some shit right there.
Yeah.
But yes, because I don't care. I'm gonna, like, I will yell at you. I don't, if you're trying. And one other quick story, which for me was scary, was when I was dating a black dude, maybe 3 years ago. On New Year's, we had a black family come down who wanted to have a tour of São Paulo. It was like last minute. They were here January 2nd or 1st, whatever. So we go all the way to Renaissance Hotel, which is like the top hotel of São Paulo. They're there.
I'll be there.
So I didn't want to leave dude here in my house. I said, come with me, because you're from Brazil. Maybe you can even give me some perspective on stuff. So we go down there. And dude, I'm talking to him. We're shoulder to shoulder, blah, 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 blah. And then we stop talking a little bit because I'm checking out. Did we get to the place? So as soon as I see this is the place, I just march in. And then I turn to my left to talk to him and say, so where is he? He stopped at the sidewalk. It was like, those electric fences that they have for the dogs, those invisible. He just stopped at the sidewalk. So I went back and I said, come in. And he's like, he didn't even talk. He just went like, he just nodded his head. And I was like, man, the brainwashing is real. It's real, So, and I just marched into the Renaissance Hotel, went to the whatever, the waiting area, waited for the people to come down. Good Lord, man.
Let me illustrate this. Let me complement what you said. When I lived in Volta Redonda, I must have been, 15 or 16 years old. And one day I had this one white dude. He was my, best buddy, my, my partner, my, trick and chasing the girls and everything. And then one day, keep in mind that we lived off downtown. We lived in a suburb of the city. And Volta Redonda is a small city, but we lived way off the, downtown area. One day he came, hey, Durval, I need to go to the bank. Can you come with me? Because I have to, do some banking. So yeah, let's do it. In my mind, I already thought, okay, when I get there, I will wait outside. This guy is white, okay? And because I don't feel comfortable getting into a bank. Yeah. Man, I was 14, 15 years old. Look at the kind of pressure, psychological pressure on a black teenager. He went to the bank and he stopped at the glass door and said, come on, man, let's go. I said, I don't think I should. No. Against my will, I got into the bank with him, and we had to stand in line, all right? So there we were waiting, and then I start to feel this uneasiness. I say, anxiety. The wrong place. I shouldn't be anxiety, I said, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. It's not my place. They're looking at me. The psychological pressure was so much. I thought I was so undeserved of being there that I said, Tito was his name. I said, Tito, man, I'm sorry, man. And I started to sweat because I felt, I swear to God. And then I said, look, the guard is looking at me. He thinks I'm a robber. I said, are you crazy, man? What are you talking about? The psychological uneasiness was so strong that I left the bank and I waited for him outside, in the outside.
Yeah, and how
Good
much of
Lord.
that do you think was internal?
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. And then
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, how much of that do you think was internal though? Like, do you think people really were
because all
looking
my
at you
life I
like
was
that?
told that you don't belong here. It's not your place. You are black. You cannot stay here. Get out of here.
Right.
So
So it
you
was
understand?
largely internal. Like it wasn't
Yeah, but
Pretty much so.
necessarily.
But you have to bear in mind that it comes internal, but came from the outside, from the
yeah,
system.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
You know.
No, I
yes,
understand where you're coming from. Just
yeah,
You
like
know.
a lot of that is like it's unjustified. Like I understand where it comes from.
Hmm.
But the truth of the matter is like probably most people didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
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 No,
Yeah.
but that's the
Hmm.
thing. Most people would not give a shit, but you're fed these messages and you start to believe it. So you create
Yep.
this illusion
Yep.
Yeah.
of, yeah, I don't belong
Hmm.
in this space. I shouldn't be
Hmm.
here. I had to work that out of my little cousin, Jose, but now Pete knows my little cousin. He goes everywhere. I
Hmm.
let him know from a young age.
Hmm.
Paulista is your spot as much as the quebrada that you're from. You
Yep.
know, you can
Hmm.
walk in Jardins and you can walk in Jardim Jaqueline. They're both
Hmm.
your Jardins, but
Hmm.
that's a tough thing to break. And because of
Hmm.
these messages that you're fed, whether it's when you enter into a supermarket, you're followed. When somebody does ask, "Why are you here?"
Yep.
and
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
say, "None of your
Hmm.
business."
Yeah,
Okay.
but the moment I started to carry myself, the moment I started
Mm-hmm.
to work out my self-esteem, things start to change because
Yeah.
I started to look people in the eyes, say, "Yeah, I'm here. What's your problem?" Just like this kind of attitude, everything
Mm-hmm.
changed. Of course, it's a process, not something I was born with, or maybe I was born with, but it was hidden somewhere. And after I started having my kids, I educate them, I teach them to say, "Look, always look people in their eyes,
Yes.
show respect, and demand respect from other people."
Yeah.
So, because I don't want you guys to pass through what I have been through. That's what
For sure. For sure.
you understand.
Let's get into here. We're getting to towards the end here. Although Pete, you know what time it is in a few minutes.
Yeah,
Um,
you don't have to send it to me again. We
all right.
just did
Cool.
this
Cool.
last
Cool. We got a
week.
little surprise for you, Durval. Anyway.
Oh man.
So just a few more questions here that interest me on this whole topic. Okay,
Go ahead.
one,
Hmm.
we've been talking a lot about the racism here in Brazil and this, that, and the third. But I want to know, you know, from, let's go 10 years ago, 15 years ago, okay, to
Okay.
now.
Hmm.
How do you see the Black movement? How has it grown? Okay, and how have Black people grown here in Brazil?
Hmm.
And where do you feel it's still lacking? Before you answer, let me tell you, this week I was just marveled, by what? The dumbest thing. Again, so dumb. Because I'm coming home from the metro and I see a black girl being the propaganda girl for the bank. I see, was it Ludmilla has that little cheesy song for this other commercial. I see a
Hmm.
black boy there as a propaganda for Estácio or whatever. And I remember
Hmm.
when I came to Sao Paulo back in 2010, 2009, when I used to wait in the whatever the reception, for English
Hmm.
guys, I used to play a game with myself, go through the magazine, see, find a black, in the magazine. It would be impossible. So now it's like, oh, black faces, black faces, black faces. So I love that. I love to see this. So these are small things. Even the girl on Global, the Maju, is that her name?
Yeah.
Um, that's the reporter. Where do you see the changes, the progress, and where are things still lacking?
Okay. Good question. I would say that based on what I've seen and what I understand as advancement, what I understand as still a way to go is, yes, we can see more black faces all around. Companies are perceiving that diversity is more than a trend; it's a necessity for what we call creative economy. The companies are understanding more and more that the more the money circulated, the better companies and the society as a whole. And for this, you have to think about inclusion of PCDs, pessoas com deficiências, LGBTQ,
Mhm.
this segment of the society, black folks, the native people and culture and etc. Because we live in a diverse world, and people understand this also as a more than a civil necessity, as a corporate strategy, and that's why you see banks and pharmaceutical companies and etc. All kinds of exposing all kinds of people, which is
Mhm.
good. Talking about black people, I would say that we still have to be on the top of the industry, open our supermarkets, our banks, our cinemas, our shopping malls, our scientific centers, and etc. Not to
Mhm.
be always in the third or fourth echelons of the companies in the mainstream, but to be on the top, and I'll be honest, to be on the top means a fight for power. That's all that is. In the government, in the federal level, state level, city level, whatsoever. It's
Mhm.
it's 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 a we have to think as strategic people inside the country. You know, where we want to be in 10 years from now. Our people, our black girls or black boys. How many universities, how many companies, how many industries are we going to open to make the money circulating with our people, in our population, to have a
Mhm.
real representation, to have maybe a black president, a black general, a black powerful man. Are we
Yeah,
gonna
black CEOs.
black CEOs, black business community, like a strong representative with
Mhm.
this kind of uh, representation inside the society. It's a long way to go. So we have advanced. It's been a long way up to now. We can never forget our ancestors because we are here today because of them,
Yes.
and we have a lot of things to do in the contemporary moment and a long way to go to the future. That's what I think.
Well, that leads right into my next question here, which was concerning the black movements. Okay, because
Mm.
black movements in America, they range from very militant, like no white people are the devil, to a blend of, oh, we can work together with some white folks, to Martin Luther King. It's like, let's all be a big happy family. And sometimes, some will argue that all these divisions is what maybe sometimes holds black people back from getting to step B or C or D, because everybody has their own view of what blacks need to do. How is that here in Brazil? What is that dynamic of the black movements in Brazil?
Absolutely the same,
Mhm.
because you have to keep in mind that Brazil is a huge country.
Yes.
So we have these regional mindsets. The mindset of a black guy from the northeast of Brazil, the north of Brazil, will be totally different from the mindset of someone from the south. Even though the demands are the same, even though the struggle for citizenship is the same, but I see it as an advantage because it's nearly impossible in a country like Brazil that was founded by people from outside Brazil, Europeans and black people and etc., to have a homogeneous kind of thinking for the whole country.
Of
Forget about
course.
that.
Yeah.
But black people, we needed to have a unified strategy, respecting internal differences. We had to have an agenda, a national agenda for black people, respecting each one's interests. But, you know, as long as we understand that we need to be unified in around or inside this strategy, that's gonna be okay. Okay, it's impossible to put a Pan-Africanist with a integralist guy talking the same way, even though at the end of the day they aim for the same thing, the
Yeah.
same but each one with a different approach, and you have to respect this approach. you know but what I think is that we have to have a unifying strategy as a people inside Brazil, respecting the internal differences. We have to have an agenda for Black people in Brazil, political agenda.
How
And
easy is that though?
it's
Because I
not
mean,
easy. No, it's not
yeah,
easy. No, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. But it's a challenge we're
because
going to have to
you're
face.
talking about people grouping based solely on ethnicity, but people are people,
Yeah,
and they have their differences, they have their
yeah.
different approaches to things. Like I that sounds like a huge struggle.
It is a huge struggle, but it's not impossible to reach as long as we want to fight the same problems like racism, segregation, discrimination, prejudice. It's all there. It doesn't matter if you are a Pan-Africanist or if you're integralist, if you like Malcolm X or Martin Luther King. At the end of the day, you're a Black person. So the evil will be the same. The malefice is the
Yeah, I
you
agree
know
with you. I think when the enemy or the barrier that you got to break is clear, it becomes easier to think about that and not what separates. So, I one of the best videos I think you can watch on the net is the debate between James Baldwin and Malcolm X, who were very different in their lines of thinking. And
yeah
James Baldwin, who also
yeah.
was
I
good
have Jason
friends with
Baldwin here
Martin Luther
somewhere.
King, "I'm Not Your Negro" is a great little documentary that
Hmm.
goes into that, where I mean, the guy was just, up here with his intellectual level,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he was able to do that, where he was able to see, look, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, a lot of times people like to separate them, like they're opposite sides. They work together many
yeah.
times. When
Just
Martin
sides
Luther
of the
King went
same
to
coin.
yeah, when Martin Luther King went to jail, Malcolm X gave that speech for him. They worked together when it came
Yeah,
to, like, we know where our people need to be
yeah.
tomorrow. Now we
That's what
may
I'm talking
disagree
about.
on some things, especially when it comes to the nonviolence and how integrated we should be in white society, et cetera, et cetera. But one
Hmm.
thing we know for sure, we got to get to point B tomorrow, and then we'll figure out the rest. So it's tough. I think one thing here in Brazil, and it's a bit nefarious, and most Black people that you talk to from outside Brazil will agree with this, and white Brazilians especially get really pissed off when we say this. Brazilian is more racist than the U.S. because it's
Yeah.
it's a
Latif
nefarious
didn't feel
racism.
that way. That was the bizarre thing, man.
But
Latif
that's a
didn't.
fact, and I
Yeah,
agree
yeah.
with
Yes.
Phil. I agree with Phil.
Yeah.
Totally,
Yeah.
What?
totally
Yeah.
agree.
No.
No,
There's
I
people that
agree
won't.
with Phil as well. I mean,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no,
my
there's a few
God.
people that disagree, but majority of Black folks that I talk to from outside will say no, Brazil is way more racist because here it's like we were talking about earlier. It's like you're brainwashed, you've internalized it.
Right.
You feel like you're there is no racism. It's the racial democracy. It's there's no racism here. Where's the Ku Klux Klan? There's no
No,
racism
no,
here.
exactly.
Where's the people hanging from the trees? There's no racism here. Where are the segregated schools? And you're like, what are you talking about? Like it's a nefarious one where it's subtle and
Hmm.
people know their spaces. It's like
Yeah,
you don't even have to say it, and people know
yeah.
their spaces. In the U.S., it's rough, but at least you can get that upward mobility in the U.S. Here,
Mhm.
chances of upward mobility, man, if you're Black and poor, are almost zero. Like the system here is
Yeah,
so built to keep Black people exactly where they were born
yeah,
that
exactly.
it's
Exactly.
incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get there's folks that disagree, but for
yeah.
me, you
No, no,
can't compare it.
you're absolutely. I totally agree with you because based on my own experience, as I told you guys, I came from a very simple family, but my social mobility was a hell of a struggle. I had to sacrifice a lot of things and give up on another ones, and in order to be able to at least give some decency to my kids nowadays. But I know how much I have been through in order to get here. It's
It is
a
a
hell of a
struggle.
struggle. Yep.
All right, last little question before we grill you. Pete and I are going to grill you in a second, but last question is this. Okay, it's kind of a two-part question, and it's how can Black people from abroad connect to Afro-Brazilians, and how can folks from other races learn and appreciate Black culture in Brazil? What are your tips on that?
Well, the first thing is if you want to know about Black people, talk to a Black person. We know our truth. We know where we came from. If you want to know the truth about our mindset, our view of the world, talk to us. Don't believe the hype because sometimes what you see in the books or something is just crap. If you want to know about Zumbi dos Palmares, Dandara, or this kind of thing, talk to us. Because we know the truth. We know about our history, how we came here, and of course, many of the bonds and ties that we had with African people were lost because of a lot of reasons. We can consider another video in the future to talk about this, but we are rediscovering our truth, our roots, our legacy, our heritage, and talk to Black people. Go to the Black organizations in Brazil. We have many in Salvador, Rio, São Paulo, Rio Grande do Sul, especially the old Black people in Brazil. They will hold the truth. They'll tell you what it is, and that's what I'm talking about. The integration with the people from other communities, a good start would be I will speak directly to white folks to know that they recognize and acknowledge their privileges along the history and all the evils caused by this, the obstacles that we Black folks and the native people in Brazil have to face because of certain fallacious uh, truths that the so-called mainstream spread in the books and on television. They need to recognize that if they want to live in a fair society, they're going to have to give up on some of their privileges because the revolution will not be televised, like the music says, and
Yeah.
it's a truth. We're uh, I don't like to say this, but it's the truth. It's inevitable. If things don't change, we're going to get to a rupture. Look at what's happening in the United States. What is happening in Brazil as far as political positioning, and it's just all a matter of a fair share of the cake. You know, people are not taking bullshit no more. Excuse my language, but that's what it is. And you will see people with goodwill. It's okay. Let's interact. Let's talk. Let's integrate. But respect me for who I am and what I am. You know. Otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree
I'm
with
always
you.
peace,
And,
but I'm always
and you're the best spoken one out of the group here, so don't worry. You can say a few bad words every once in a while. Um, but I agree with you, and don't be butthurt about it. I think sometimes some white folks just get butthurt about it. It's like, okay, it doesn't mean you specifically did anything bad, but your ancestors were a little fucked up. Everybody was a little fucked up in the past. Your
yeah.
ancestors did some fucked up shit. Just recognize it. Let's move ahead. Something I really I like about the Germans. You go to Germany. I went to Berlin.
Hmm.
Now these motherfuckers. See, I told you, you're the most well spoken here. It's the cachaça guys. It's after a certain hour.
Excuse my French. Huh?
Yes, after the certain hour. So you go to Germany, and they're not butthurt about the fact that a couple generations ago we did some really bad shit.
Not
Hmm.
And we
not just
don't
a
want it.
couple generations ago, man. The
Yeah.
DDR was like that ended
Yeah,
in
What?
1989.
1980 something? Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, not even exactly, because you're going all the way to the Berlin Wall. I was thinking Holocaust, but it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, we did some really bad shit, and we don't want that to happen again, and we're totally sorry about it, and we're willing to listen to these people and hear about their story, and let's move on and have some beer, and then we can have some beer together, and that's it. It's not that difficult, don't get butthurt about it. Anyway, I'm gonna play some music now.
Oh, you're gonna play some music. What's that? Oh, I like that.
The expat challenge, although you are technically not an expat, you still are going to be grilled because everybody that comes on
before
our
you
show,
move on, Phil, would you
Yes.
give me 2 or 3 minutes to talk about some forthcoming events that we are planning
course.
to? Okay.
you're gonna plug away at the end of this. You're gonna plug
Okay.
everything that you want to plug. I got, by the way, folks, contact information for Durval is on the comments, not the comments, the description of this video. I got everything: his Instagram, his
Thanks,
Facebook,
buddy.
Linktree, his home address. No, I'm joking.
No.
But I do have his email. But he gave me
Oh.
everything, so you're gonna get to plug away at the end of this for sure.
Okay.
But before you get there, you gotta answer some
Mhm.
questions, brother. If you
Alright.
get any of these questions wrong, I delete this video.
Oh,
Okay,
man,
it's like
no.
you were never on this channel.
I'm in trouble now.
Yes.
I'm
So
in
the
trouble
first question I'm gonna begin tonight is, what is the best thing about Brazil?
The best thing about Brazil. The best thing about Brazil is the people. The people, because no matter what, the real Brazilian people, like the average Brazilian person, is lovely, friendly. We like talking, we like traveling, like having a good time. Go to the beach, play some soccer, drink some beer, and the people. I would say the people.
All right,
That's
go ahead,
what I
Peter.
think. Our best part.
All right. So it's not all sun and roses. So what is the worst thing about Brazil?
The worst thing about Brazil is the lack of strategy as a nation,
Good answer.
which reflects in the quality of life of the rest of the people, or most of the people. Had we had a better management style, we would be, shoulder to shoulder with the biggest nations in the planet, certainly.
Yes, I agree. So much potential
I can't
wasted.
disagree with that. There's this thing here they say, Peter, Brazil is the country of the future that never comes.
Yep.
Yes.
Favorite Brazilian food, Durval? What's your favorite Brazilian food?
Oh, Lord have mercy. This one is easy. Feijoada for sure. Because not only because my lovely wife Ana Paula prepares the best feijoada in São Paulo, but also because it's our national dish, and it's delicious, it's tasteful, it's good.
It's so heavy though. It's so heavy.
It's heavy.
Well, you can balance that with a cold one, no problem.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Peter.
All right. That's the best. What's the worst?
The worst
Brazilian food.
The worst Brazilian food, in my opinion. We have okay, of course, it's very subjective because it's my personal opinion, but there's this one thing called giló.
Oh.
Some people love it. I'm sorry, guys. I'll pass that. It's not for me. I'm sorry. I won't take it. I won't take it. Sorry to say, but
Giló is pretty nasty, guys. It's this thing right here.
Yeah, exactly.
The
It's
problem
even ugly.
is,
look at that.
It's ugly, and then when you cook it, it's like slimy. It's like you're eating slugs.
And it's bitter and sour at the same time, and the taste is awful. I mean,
look at this texture. Look at this texture. It's just
Thanks,
the most disgusting thing. It's like eating a slug. It's like it tastes
but
nasty.
no, thanks, no.
But people do like it. Quiabo is like a close second, except that if you make quiabo just right on some ground beef,
okra is all right. Yes,
it can be nice, but it depends how it's prepared. I think it's on me, right? What's your favorite Brazilian drink? It can be alcoholic or non-alcoholic.
Oh, I love beer. And but my number one drink is wine. I love wine. Yes,
Any
I love.
Brazilian wine to
Doesn't matter as
recommend?
long as it's wine. It's like red wine or white wine. As long as it's wine and but okay, take that back. I
Yeah,
like when
Brazilian
it's
drink. Brazilian drink.
the
Yeah, give us a
Brazilian.
Brazilian.
Okay, I don't drink spirits or strong alcoholic drinks, but I'll go with uh, depending on the place, depending on the time. I always caipirinha would be okay, but uh, keep in mind, it's not my cup of tea. It's not
Right.
something that I
Yeah, but
drink.
the caipirinha is famous here, man. And I know
Yeah.
folks always mention some juices. People really like the Brazilian juices.
Yes. Okay. No
Yeah.
alcoholic. I would shoot for orange juice.
Yes, that's a big one
That's
here.
also
Yeah.
not very Brazilian, though. Orange
Yeah.
juice is pretty
Yes.
universal.
Yes.
But
Exactly.
here, Pete, it's like
Yeah.
they love it. Orange juice is the thing here.
Yes.
It's
They,
everywhere.
yeah,
It,
they do.
Yes.
They do.
it is. It is.
Go ahead, Peter.
All right. So the most overrated locate. Oh, sorry, no. The best place you have visited in Brazil.
Salvador. Salvador is
No,
magic.
good, good,
Is
good.
magic. I was there with my wife and Paula in November, last November. Was my second time in town, and guys, come on, there's something in the atmosphere, in the air, the history, the vibration, the reconnection with our ancestry. It's fantastic. It's a place I would live easily. I would buy a place there and live with my wife
Wow.
there for the rest of my life. Certainly, certainly, certainly.
All
You
right.
know.
Plan to go later this year, hopefully.
Oh, you should. You'll love it. It's wonderful. You know.
Now it's on me, and I'm going to ask you a difficult question here. What do you think is
Okay.
the most overrated location or thing? Something people talk about so much, and you're like, yeah, it's okay.
Ah, Jesus Christ. It's a tricky question because 90% of people will not like what I'm going to say. But
Uh-oh.
yeah, I'm afraid to say, but I'll be honest to my feelings. Rio de Janeiro.
No, no.
That's the number one
Everybody says
answer.
that. Everybody
Rio de,
says that.
Everybody
Rio de
says
Janeiro.
Everybody
this on
says
this
that.
Rio de Janeiro.
podcast, and I
It's,
apologize to all my friends in Rio, but
yes.
you
Yeah.
lose
Okay.
on this
Okay.
podcast.
I'll tell you
We
what. But
love Rio de Janeiro.
let me explain. Let me explain. I
Go
love
ahead.
Rio. It's a wonderful place. It's nice. It's very charming and everything. But there are some aspects of the city that really bother me. As far as sometimes I feel insecure. I don't know if I'm going to be the next one going down. And this kind of insecurity really bothers me. When I go to Rio de Janeiro, I like to stay 1, 2 days tops. And then it's okay. Let me get out of here.
It's a good 3-day city.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm sorry, guys, but I have to be honest with myself. Bear in mind that I was born in the countryside of the state. Okay. So,
Yes, it's different than the city.
exactly. So,
No, but Rio is a top answer for this question.
Yeah,
And
almost
Brian,
everybody says Rio.
yeah.
Pete,
Yeah.
last week Brian I think gave the best description. He was like Rio was like this gorgeous woman with the nice
With
hair,
no
beautiful
teeth.
butt, nice
Yeah.
breast, but then when she goes to smile, she's got no teeth.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's exactly what I'm saying.
But I'm like you. I had fun there for about 3 or 4 days. I was like, get me out of here.
Exactly.
Get me out of
Yeah.
here now.
Yeah, it
Sorry.
wears out its welcome, but it's an awesome place for
Uh-huh.
3 days.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, it's on Peter.
All right, so but you're in Sao Paulo. So what is the best place to chill in your city?
Let me see. Downtown, you mean, right?
No,
That's the best
anywhere,
place.
anywhere.
Anywhere.
Best place to hang out, Sao Paulo.
I like, for a lot of reasons, I like Upside Town near Cantareira. First, because it's the area of the town that has the largest population of black folks. in the capital. So the culture, samba squares. We have soccer teams. We have bars, and for black folks. I'm not saying that the other parts of town don't have those, but what I'm saying is like the blackest area of town, in town, in the states, in the metropolitan area. So I like that. We have Cantareira, we have Mandaqui, we have Horto Florestal, we have Vila Nova Cachoeirinha, Imirim, Casa Verde. All those places are a whole lot of black people, and that's it.
The
Yeah.
north side of São Paulo. That's
Hmm.
that's interesting. You said that because I had no clue. It's
I
an
thought that was like the whitest part of
me
Sao
too. I
Paulo.
always thought it was like
No,
the
no, no, no,
whitest
no, no.
area of
If
São
you go
Paulo.
to the right spots, you say, "Oh, that's what I'm talking about." See,
Yeah, these pictures aren't helping much.
yeah. If
But
if you okay, I know if your Portuguese is all right, so
yes.
you can even search on Google. So
Hmm.
população preta de São Paulo and Zona Norte, you will see
Hmm.
what I'm talking about.
All right, later you
You know,
give me some
Mm.
spots
I
to hit up
will
because
definitely,
I've been trying to
definitely.
go to the Cantareta Park for a long time. So Zona Norte
Mm-hmm.
is just not an area of São Paulo I've explored as
Mm-hmm.
much as everywhere else. But I definitely
Mm-hmm.
want to go to Cantareta Park. And
Mm-hmm.
now that you tell me all this other extra stuff, I'm
Yeah,
good
yeah.
to go.
You should
Mm,
go. For example, we have the Quadra da Casa Verde,
mm.
the what's the name of the other? The
Well, I
Rosa
went
de
to
Ouro,
CTN.
Mocidade. All those samba schools are there. So
Okay, and
you
I
know,
went to CTN though. That was nice. The
so,
Centro de Cultura Tradicional
so
Nordestina or something.
Nordestina, yeah, yeah. It's
Yes,
upside down
which I
too. Yeah,
I love
yeah,
that, man.
yeah,
Oof,
yeah. Hmm.
good food.
Yeah.
Is it on me, Pete?
It is, yeah.
Favorite Brazilian musician or band?
Oh, favorite Brazilian musicians, Museu Afro, certainly.
Who?
For me, yeah, I've been there 3 or 4 times, and they have
Wait,
a
say that
very
again.
nice collection. Museu Afro de São Paulo.
No,
No,
not
no,
museum.
no,
Oh,
Musician.
musician,
oh,
musician.
musician.
Music.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
musician from São Paulo. Oh my
from
goodness.
everywhere,
No,
from
from
Brazil.
Brazil, from
Oh, from
Brazil.
the whole. Okay,
Yeah.
my guy, Paulinho da Viola. Paulinho da
Ah,
Viola is my guy. He's my guy. He's my guy because I learned to listen to him from my mother, and he's a he's a gentleman. He's very scholar when he writes his songs, and he's my guy. I love him. The way he composes songs, the plays the song. Very simple, low profile kind of guy, but he's highly respected within the Brazilian popular music scenario. You know,
yes, very
yeah,
poetic.
yeah,
I love Paulinho da
yes,
Viola.
yes, yes, yes. My guy. Yeah, yeah.
All right, Peter, to close it
Ye-
out.
Yeah, a word of advice for future visitors to Brazil. What would you tell them?
Okay, so talking from the São Paulo perspective, I would say definitely try the hotspots in town like Vila Madalena, Bairro do Limão, Zona Norte de São Paulo, Ibirapuera Park, of course, Paulista Avenue. But talk to normal people, to the regular people. Talk to the average Paulistano guy to know the real, to get the feeling of the real person, the spirit of the city, um, where you learn about our culture, the way we talk, what the things we like, the our food, our average lifestyle, and I think we're going. Anyone who comes to São Paulo falls in love with the city because the
No, not
all the
anyone. Some
opportunity.
people come here and fucking run quickly.
Yes,
No,
I
yeah,
agree
I
with
mean you
Peter on
have.
that.
But if you live in São Paulo, you can live anywhere in the world because
Yes,
it's a
Yes,
yes.
this is true.
cosmopolitan city with all kinds of people, all kinds of cultures, all kinds of
But
traditions
I
and
agree with you,
influences.
Durval, where you gotta explore the city. I always tell folks that come to São Paulo, it's not like Rio or maybe Salvador where you get off the plane and it's there,
Hmm.
pow, in your
Hmm.
face.
Hmm.
Here, you gotta explore. Cause I know plenty of
Yeah.
people that come here and they hate it. They're like, what is this
Hmm.
place? But then
Hmm.
once they take their time to explore, go to
Yeah,
this neighborhood,
exactly,
go to that party, and then they're
exactly.
like,
Hmm.
oh, now I
Yeah,
get it.
That's what I'm
Now I
talking
get
about.
why people love Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
But it's not love at first sight. I always
Hmm.
joke. The first thing I saw when I came to Sao Paulo were a bunch of
Hmm.
vultures on the tarmac and I said, where have I gotten myself into? So anyway, now, Durval, this is your moment to shine. Well, you've been
Okay.
shining all night, but this is your moment to plug, I should say. Let us know how people can get a hold of you, what your plans are, events. This is all you,
Mhm.
brother.
Okay, first of all, again, I would like to thank you and Peter for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit more about myself, my life, and my mindset and the things that I trust and believe, my tastes and everything. It has been really nice. Thank you, guys. And I would like to, as a social plan or civil plan, if you will, me and my wife and Apollo, we are planning to put together more events where we can put Afro-Brazilians and African Americans and African people in town. We are planning on the organization of our next Jantar Black dinner, and our next Black movie session with Black Panther #2. So I would like to ask if you guys allow me to spread the words, get into our
Please,
Instagram,
please.
to get the knowledge about our next black oriented forthcoming events, which will be in November this year. Lots of media is asking, the press is asking, the black trendsetters are asking, oh, when is going to be the next one, because it's getting bigger and bigger. We had a few African Americans in our last event, the black dinner. So we got to do this again. So, but most of all, our intention is to put us together. We are cousins, Afro-Brazilians, African Americans, and Africans in town, to talk more about our culture, our values, our traditions, our similarities, and our differences, and reconnect to each other, most of all, because if we go back to 300, 400 years, probably we were relatives. We came from the same sheep and everything, slave ship, and here we are reconnected in 2022 and on, and that's it. Again, thank you, Phil, for the invitation. It was really, I'm thrilled with this opportunity. Peter, it has been very nice to meet you, and I hope we can have a chance to meet face to face one day to share a cold
Yeah,
one
it's
and
been a pleasure.
chit
Very
chat. Yes,
informative. Sorry, I was
yes.
not more engaging, but this is
No,
not
it's
my
okay. It
area
was
of expertise,
nice.
obviously. So I'm just sitting
Yes.
back and
Okay.
listening to what you have to say.
Phil, we have to promise each other we're gonna share a code one of these days, and go around town to see what it is. And oh, you're muted.
I'm muted because I was sharing a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff for
Oh.
sure. And remember,
Mm-hmm.
I name dropped Elisa at the beginning because I told you I went to see her in Campo Limpo, and there she is. She's on here. We love
Oh, she's
Elisa.
she's here, Alisa.
She's a
Oh, okay.
sweetheart, man. She's my soul
Oh,
sister. I
okay.
love this girl. But she's in
Mm-hmm.
Salvador. She's
Oh.
she's a Baiana from Los Angeles. Like she
Oh,
just,
okay.
yes, like this is her
I'm glad to hear
place.
that. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. When I first met her, she was one of the first expats I met in Brazil, but I didn't think
Mm-hmm.
it was an expat because ela
Mm-hmm.
fala com sotaque do Bahia quando fala português. And I was
I
like,
see where you're
who's this
coming
Baiana?
from.
And then she's a falsa Baiana. She sings jazz
She's a
music. So I
falso
said,
Baiana.
you are the
A fake
falsa
Baiana.
Baiana from that song. But I love
Oh,
her
well,
to
let,
death.
let, let, let me tell you one experience I had in regards to language and everything. One day
Yes.
we received a delegation from Washington, D.C. in town, and I was assigned by my then supervisor to go around city to, help with the language and everything. At the end of the day, and I remember I spent the whole day with this guy. So we enter into the elevator, and he tapped my back and goes like, "Yo, Durval, I'm impressed, man." I say, "What, man? What's up?" "No, man. You speak to the locals like a perfect Portuguese brother." And I goes like, "What? No, no, man. I'm impressed with the way you talk like a Brazilian." Say, well, wait a minute, right there. I am Brazilian. Say, what? You were telling me that I spent the whole day with you? You're not American. I said, I'm not American, man. What are you talking about? I'm Brazilian. Damn, man. it was an experience of a lifetime because
that's cool. That's funny.
he thought that I was an American who spoke Portuguese. So he was impressed the way I spoke Portuguese.
No, good. Yeah, this is good enough. But I thought you were an American dude too.
No,
until I started talking,
okay.
I was like, okay. But it's all good, guys. We like to have our mix. This is called the Brazil Expat Journal, but we always bring in a couple Brazilians. Rebecca, which was wonderful at the beginning of the year, and we'll have her back. Marcos, who is going to come back very soon because he just started his Afro-Portuguese Institute, which is really exciting. So it's always good to get the locals to come on and really tell you what's going on. And, because us gringos, we can only tell you half the story. You got to get folks that are born and raised here their whole life to really give you the nitty gritty. And you did a wonderful job.
And I want to tell you guys quickly before we go off the air, I did leave you guys a link in the chat window to a really fascinating story that is relevant to what Durval was talking about, which is like Black-owned businesses and things like that. And it's about the tech boom in Bahia, largely by Black-owned tech companies. So I don't want to talk about that right now, but it's there for you if you guys want to check it out. It's an interesting story.
Well, I just sent it in the regular chat. So all you guys, and by the way, thank you all. Kings and Dreams, who wants to collab. Elisa that came on. Charles Jones. We got Global Go Getter, and then we got Travelmatic was on, and everybody else that listens on the playback and that was listening and just didn't say anything. We love you. But yeah, look at that. Black Silicon Valley. I'm going to read that after we're off the air. Guys, we got to go. I got a 7:30 a.m. wake-up call. Durval, it was a pleasure. I hope likewise, brother. The first of many great conversations that we'll have for sure.
Oh, you bet. Okay, guys.
I believe I got some outro music, and there it is. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Cheers, Durval. It was a pleasure.
Peter. See you. My pleasure.
Thank you, folks, for listening to the Brazil Expat Journal. BJ, you can trust. We may have one last BJ before the end of the year where we'll be talking food. So if you got
the
food
end of the month, you mean?
Let me know. Well, yeah, I think we'll get one in before, last one of the month, before we take a break in July, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
But we'll be talking food with Tracy from the south of Brazil. Nice. And she does a lot of nice stuff from her home. So if you got food questions, send them in, and that'll be an interesting talk. She was actually my very, very first guest on the BJ, so it'll be very good to have her back. Thank you, Durval. Thank you, Pete. We're off the air in 3, 2.
You got it, brother.